Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Dana Chandler. First I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Dana Lynn Chandler was born on January 5, 1960, and lived in Denver, Colorado. In 1982, she married a man named Michael Ray Sisko, who went by the name Mike. He was just over 5 years older than Dana. Mike and Dana went on to have 2 children. Eventually, Mike moved the family to Topeka, Kansas. Dana was miserable there and started consuming excessive quantities of alcohol. The couple divorced in 1998. Mike obtained custody of their 2 children due to Dana's alcohol problem. Dana moved back to Denver and was ordered to pay child support. Mike became engaged to a woman named Karen Harkness. She was also divorced with 2 children. Mike and Karen had separate homes in Topeka, but spent a lot of time in Karen's 1,600 square foot 3-bedroom duplex on Southwest Westport Square. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On Sunday, July 7, 2002, at about 2 p.m., Karen's father called 911 and reported that he had found Karen and Mike dead in Karen's duplex. He had made this gruesome discovery after arriving at her residence for a planned social gathering. Here is what the police found during the course of their investigation. Karen was face down on a bed in the basement. Mike was on the floor next to this bed. They had each been shot at least 5 times with a 9mm pistol. The couple was probably asleep when the shooting started. When they were found, they were not wearing any clothing. However, Karen was wearing a diamond bracelet, a Rolex watch, and a gold ring. Whoever killed them not only failed to take this jewelry, nothing appeared to be missing from the duplex. There was no forced entry into the residence. The rear sliding glass door was ajar. Karen and Mike used to smoke cigarettes on the back porch and left the sliding door unlocked, so the killer could have entered through that door without forcing entry. The police learned that on July 7, just before 1:30 a.m., so 12.5 hours before the bodies were discovered, Karen and Mike had left a casino. They stopped at a convenience store on the way back to Karen's duplex. Based on video surveillance, it did not appear as though they had been involved in any arguments with anyone or been in any trouble at all. The police spoke to several neighbors. One neighbor said that at around 3 a.m., she heard loud pops that she thought were gunshots or a motor vehicle collision. Another neighbor said that Karen's garage door was open at 5 a.m., which was out of the ordinary. The police contacted Dana Chandler and told her that her ex-husband, Mike, had been murdered. She did not appear to be curious about the circumstances of the homicide. On July 11, 2002, 4 days after the murders, Dana was interviewed in Topeka. She was there for Mike's funeral. Dana explained how she was in Colorado on July 6 and on July 7. She went shopping and traveled to Grande, which is 86 miles northwest of Denver. On July 15, the police arrested Dana on a child support warrant. They seized her black Mitsubishi Eclipse and searched it, but there was no evidence in the vehicle connecting her to the murders. Despite this, the police were convinced that Dana had driven 542 miles from Denver to Topeka, shot Mike and Karen to death, then returned to Denver. They did not have enough evidence to place her under arrest. There was no physical evidence tying her to the crime scene, and no proof that she was in the state of Kansas at the time of the murders. The case went cold toward the end of 2002, although the investigation did not come to a complete stop. For instance, in May 2003, Dana's hair was collected and compared to hair found at the crime scene. It was not a match. Dana moved on with her life. She ended up living in Oklahoma and earned a master's degree in accounting. In 2009, under a new prosecutor, the murders of Mike and Karen were reinvestigated. No new evidence was discovered. Even so, on July 25, 2011, Dana Chandler was arrested for murder in Duncan, Oklahoma. The arrest was made in the parking lot of an Arby's. That day, Dana was staring down 2 terrifying possibilities: life in prison or eating at Arby's. Either way, the outcome was bound to be unpleasant. In March 2012, Dana went on trial. The case against her was largely based on her obsession with Mike and Karen, as well as her lack of an alibi for the time of the murders. Dana was found guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder. On August 29 of that same year, she was sentenced to 2 consecutive terms of life in prison, each carrying a mandatory minimum of 50 years. In 2018, the Kansas Supreme Court overturned Dana's conviction. They found that the lead prosecutor lied to the jury by saying that Dana had violated a protective order. In reality, there never was a protective order. The state of Kansas decided to retry the case. The second trial started in 2022. This time the jury could not reach a unanimous verdict, and a mistrial was declared. Some of the jurors expressed how they were troubled by the lack of evidence. For instance, the state could not even place Dana in Kansas at the time of the murders. The state decided to try the case for a third time. This trial started in February 2025. In a surprising and bizarre move, right before the trial started, Dana Chandler fired her defense attorneys and decided to represent herself. On March 7, 2025, Dana was found guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder. At the time I'm making this video, Dana has not yet been sentenced, although it seems pretty likely the sentence will be life in prison. When Dana was booked into jail, she did not appear to be amused. Not at all. Now moving to my analysis. Dana Chandler maintains her innocence, and she has a number of supporters. They argue that anyone could have committed these murders. The evidence against Dana was frighteningly weak, and the investigation was badly mismanaged. The state, of course, disagrees. They believe that Dana's past bad behavior strongly points toward her guilt. This brings me to the question, was Dana guilty of murder? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that she was guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. Dana exhibited obsessive behavior toward Mike and Karen prior to the murders. Between January and July 2002, she called the phones of Mike and Karen 645 times. On one occasion, on February 27, she called Mike's home 22 times in 31 minutes. There were only 12 days in that time range when no calls were placed by Dana, including July 6. On July 7, Dana called only twice. She had gone 27 hours without using her phone on the weekend of July 6 and 7. Various witnesses made claims about Dana, which made her look unstable and dangerous. For example, Dana would sometimes wait outside Mike's house when he had visitation with their children. She told her daughter disturbing details about sexual activity between Mike and Karen. She told her children to spy on Mike by sitting in a vehicle outside his house. And about a month before the murders, Dana told a friend that she drove to Topeka and entered Mike's home through a window. Credit card statements confirm that Dana was in Denver on July 6, 2002 at 2 p.m. and that she was in Loveland, Colorado on July 7 at 5 p.m. Considering that the drive from Denver to Topeka is 8 hours, Dana had plenty of time to get there, commit the murders, and get back to Denver. As far as her alibi, Dana said that she went hiking near Grande, Colorado, and took Highway 34 to Estes Park. This meant that she would have passed through the gates of the Rocky Mountain National Park. However, her vehicle was not captured on video in that location. In July 2002, Dana called an acquaintance and asked him for a referral to an attorney. During this conversation, she stated that she was in Denver all weekend, so on both July 6 and July 7. In August 2002, Dana met with a different acquaintance in Denver. His name was Jeff. She asked Jeff for money to fund her legal defense. She explained to Jeff that she lied to the police about where she was because she did not think investigators would believe her. In this version of her story, she indicated that she drove through several towns, including Glenwood Springs and Fort Collins. Dana indicated that she slept in her car on the night of July 6 into July 7, but she had told the police that she slept in her apartment that night. Her final version of the story, the version she gave on the stand during her trial in 2025, was that she slept in her vehicle. How often do people sleep in their vehicles? It's incredibly suspicious that Dana just happened to sleep in hers on the night of the murders. On July 6, Dana purchased $21 worth of gasoline, a cigarette lighter, and 2 5-gallon gas cans. She failed to mention the gas cans to the police. Her next known fuel purchase was not until July 7 at 5 p.m. when she spent $24. When her apartment was searched a few days after the murders, the police found one of the 5-gallon gas cans. It contained less than a cup of gasoline. Dana should not have consumed all the fuel in her vehicle's fuel tank and in the gas cans if she only took the trip in Colorado, as she claimed. Moving to the exculpatory factors, a human hair was found on one of the spent cases left at the crime scene. The hair did not match Dana. It had to come from somebody who contributed this hair. There was no evidence that Dana ever owned a firearm or had ever fired a gun. The investigation into the murders was low quality. For example, the police failed to create or preserve records from their investigation. After making tape recordings of conversations with Dana, the police recorded over them, and they accidentally destroyed some of the DNA evidence. In the weeks after the murders, 2 career criminals tried to cash checks that were stolen from Mike. The police claimed that the checks were not stolen from Karen's duplex, but can they really be certain considering the terrible investigative skills which they had demonstrated? Even with the fuel tank in her car and the 2 gas cans, Dana did not have enough fuel to get back and forth to Topeka without stopping to purchase additional gasoline. The police looked for witnesses who may have spotted Dana or her vehicle on her alleged trip from Denver to Topeka and back. They only found one person, a gas station clerk, who claimed to have seen her, but that witness was only 70% sure. So Dana drove over 1,000 miles without one reliable witness spotting her. No reliable witness saw her or her vehicle at any point along this trip. Not at a gas station, not at a store, not at a rest area, not in the neighborhood where the victims lived. Nowhere. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I believe that Dana Chandler was guilty of murder? In my opinion, Dana was guilty in reality, that is, based on the balance of probabilities. But what about the legal standard? This case glides on a razor's edge as far as reasonable doubt. Mike and Karen could have been killed by any number of people. Even so, I do believe that Dana is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Dana Chandler was self-centered, impulsive, irresponsible, reckless, erratic, vindictive, petty, cold, callous, jealous, insecure, had a sense of entitlement, and was exceedingly creepy. In 1998, 4 years before the murder, she was diagnosed with histrionic personality disorder, or HPD. Let's take a closer look at this disorder. The idea for HPD is rooted in psychoanalytic theory. Its predecessor, hysterical personality disorder, was featured in the DSM-2 and renamed histrionic in the DSM-3. The DSM is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. HPD has 8 symptom criteria. 5 or more are required for a diagnosis: being uncomfortable when not the center of attention, inappropriate sexually seductive behavior, rapidly shifting and shallow expression of emotions, using physical appearance to draw attention, a style of speech that is excessively impressionistic, overly dramatic and theatrical, suggestible, and evaluates relationships as more intimate than they actually are. Looking at HPD through the lens of the 5-factor model, a person with this disorder tends to be high in openness to experience, low in conscientiousness, high in extroversion, low in agreeableness, although they are still trusting and altruistic, and high in neuroticism. Given Dana's behavior, a diagnosis of HPD seems unusual. People with HPD tend to lack conviction, have trouble with follow-through, get bored quickly, and are extremely talkative. Dana, on the other hand, knew exactly what she wanted, planned and executed a double murder. She did not get bored with her revenge plan, and she wasn't talkative. Out of the 10 personality disorders, HPD is associated with the least amount of dysfunction, yet Dana was extremely dysfunctional. Whether Dana had HPD or not, she certainly had boundary problems. She became obsessed with Mike and Karen and could not let them live in peace. After murdering them, Dana managed to get back to Denver without leaving evidence behind. If she had never spoken to the police, her arrest never would have happened. Her attempt to provide an alibi backfired. Just like she talked herself into being arrested, she talked herself into a conviction. Dana fired her attorneys because she wanted to tell her story. Her trial was an opportunity to demonstrate how terrible Mike had treated her. On the stand, Dana said that Mike left her poor and separated her from her children. As far as her bad behavior, Dana attributed that to alcohol use. The case against Dana was not particularly strong. She had a fair chance of being found not guilty. She was willing to throw away that chance in order to attract attention, play the victim, and take one more shot at her ex-husband Mike. The same traits that propelled her to commit the murders led her to fire her attorneys. Dana had not changed at all. Through this entire experience, she gained zero insight. Those are my thoughts on the case of Dana Chandler. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.